Hey y'all, how's it going? I thought it would be fun to make a video on all the books that I read last year. And as it turns out, I have read one single book last year, and that was about 70 pages. And I don't even have the physical copy, I just read it on my phone. So I thought, how about I just do what I've read in previous years? And so here we go. And in case y'all were wondering, the book I read last year was called 100% Match, and it's just this guy that is completely like sheltered, or not even sheltered, just recluse kind of. And he has a job at a fast food place, and he's just kind of a demented person. he, you know, he when he blows his nose, he'll save his tissues, and he'll kill a bug and save it, and then he'll later at his fast food job get those tissues and he'll put the contents, the boogers, the dead bugs, into the burgers. So if you guys like fast food, I do not recommend reading this book because it'll definitely turn you off from that. Yeah, that was a great ending, and even the last sentence was just perfection. So that was good. That was the only book I read last year though. So 2022 seems to be the most recent year in which I read multiple books. It says I read 14. So these are all of the books, well, not all of them. These are some of the books that I read in 2022. A lot of rereads in here, I'm just realizing. But it was a pretty decent year for reading. So first off, I reread the first two Bone books, comics. These aren't the first two. These are like 5 and 6. But this is an amazing series. I read this in like elementary school, and some great art, some cool creatures, just some really awesome ideas in here. There's like a war and amazing characters. It's really, really entertaining. And then these are actually, I forgot these. This was a comic kind of year, I guess. I also reread some of the Scott Pilgrim books. These are some really nice editions that I got. These are like the color hardback editions. These are really great. If you've seen the movie or show, I definitely still recommend reading the comics because there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff that happens in these books that aren't shown in the movie, obviously, because there's just not enough time. I also have the third one. And I really want to get the whole series. I just think the last three, because these look so nice together. Let's see the back. Got the evil X's. Yeah, these are just beautiful. I love these. Next up, this is not a reread. This is something I read for the first time. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Now, this book, the synopsis sounds amazing. You know, it's a dystopian future kind of thing, and like people are made in pods, and you know, they're just like made as like science projects essentially. And you know, it sounds really interesting, but this is one of the most boring books I have read in a long time. And that's really disappointing to say. Like, I want to say I love this book. It's up there with 1984, you know, like I would love to say that, but I really did not like this book, you know. And if y'all have any differing opinions, you know, maybe I missed something, you know, let me know. And because yeah, that was just a very disappointing read for me. And to be honest, I don't even remember too much from it, because I just remember being so bored that I was just reading through it and speed reading. And yeah, and I remember in high school, we had the choice of reading 1984 or Brave New World. And I chose 1984, thank goodness. But I remember people that picked Brave New World, they seemed to, you know, kind of slack on their projects. And they weren't people that slacked. You know, they were hardworking people. But they just did not, I don't think they liked the book very much either. So, yeah, maybe there's something I'm missing, but that book is just a little bit boring. And have read To Kill a Mockingbird in school, and I thought that book was kind of boring, but this just takes it to the next level. All right, next up is Doctor Sleep by Stephen King. Same kind of story here. I've heard some good things about this book, but the beginning is kind of slow. It is interesting to see Danny, and he's dealing with alcoholism just like his dad was. I think that's kind of interesting, and he's like working at some hotel, and there's some girl, I think, that was like communicating with him on some chalkboard. I definitely want to get back to it at a certain point, but yeah, I was just kind of in a reading slump then, so reading that book, it just got a little bit boring, and I was expecting something like The Shining, which I absolutely loved that book, one of my favorite books for sure, and there's a lot that happens in it that the movies don't cover, so to go from The Shining to Doctor Sleep is just a little bit disappointing. All right, next up we have American Psycho. Please excuse that drum roll. I have no idea what that was. We'll just not talk about that, okay? American Psycho. This, as you can tell, I'm actually rereading this right now. I adore this book, It's unlike anything I've ever read before. First off, I love the movie. I love the book. I just love everything about Patrick Bateman and this world and, the 1980s New York. Cold weather. It's just such a vibe, bro. It's a fucking vibe. I love it. And, that's not even scratching the surface. The characters. I love the commentary because everybody is just, everybody's the same, pretty much. Everybody wants to be the same. They want to have the same clothes. They want to go to the same restaurants, work in the same place for the same company, have the same haircut, have the same clothes. They just all are trying to impress one another, and there's not any real authenticity to any of them. And I think that's a great commentary on the world. And this was written in the 80s, and now with social media and the internet, I feel as if that has only gotten worse over time. This was just in like Wall Street that people are acting like this, but I feel like this can kind of carry over to everyday life for most people at this point. So that commentary, really resonates with me a lot. And surprisingly enough, I'm 125 pages in. There's been very, very, very little violence so far. Obviously, I remember it gets extremely gruesome in some later scenes, but there's like some casual mentions. Patrick is at dinner with Evelyn, his fiance, and they're at dinner, and it's just an amazing scene because Evelyn's going on about all these things, and Patrick is kind of dismissing it, and they're just both kind of in their own world, kind of talking over each other, talking about totally different things. Like, it's just about them, kind of at the end of the day. And there are some conversations that do go like that sometimes. So I thought that was interesting. And one part I did think was funny. They were talking about someone got divorced, and she was like, "What happened?" And he was like, "Well, he didn't like that she was doing her nails so much." And Evelyn gasps, and you think, yeah, and that's crazy. She's like, she didn't have somebody doing her nails for her. And you think, she's gasping because, oh, they got a divorce, but no, she's upset because of the idea of having to do her nails herself and not just, using money. And yeah, people mistake each other for different people constantly through this book. There's a scene where Patrick is at dinner with some of his buds. They're drinking, shooting the shit, having some pretty crass conversations, and he's like, and then I see Marcus coming by to the table, and then he introduces himself, the guy that's coming to the table. He introduces himself, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Jack." That's not his name, but someone completely different, and that happens all the time. Like everyone, they're like, for sure, that's, Paul over there. But no, it's actually some other guy that, they're all just clones, essentially. And to bring it back to Brave New World, automatons. They use automatons a lot, which, looking back, there were some interesting things in here. I like that idea. It's interesting. I read them back to back. It's talking about like having autonomy of yourself, and both of these books, Brave New World and American Psycho, they both kind of touch on being yourself and how people in society sometimes seem to just want to blend in with everybody else and not be their own person. So yeah, this was one of my favorite books, 5 stars for sure. I just realized I haven't gone over any of the ratings, but yeah, 5 stars, and I'm rereading it right now. So yeah. Let's see, these Bone books, I would give 4 stars. The first one's a little bit slow, especially since I already read it. So I'd give it like 3 stars. Second book, no, I'd give the first one 4 stars. Second book, 3 stars. And I haven't read the other ones in a while, so I can't really talk on that. This one, let's see what I gave it on Goodreads. I gave it a 2 star. 2 stars for this one. That sounds about right. Next here we have The Power of Habit. This is a nonfiction book about the power of habit. And it goes over businesses. It has these little graphs and it shows you, the cue. This is the cue. Something happens and you get a cue. And then you do your routine from the cue. And then you get the reward. So the cue is dirty teeth. The routine is brushing your teeth. The reward is clean teeth. And yeah, it just goes over, that's pretty much all you really need to know. There's some interesting anecdotes with businesses and his personal life in here, but that's really essentially the extent to what the book is about. I did quite like this book. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It has really high ratings on there. You could definitely skim a little bit of this, kind of like, I don't really skim stuff, but I speed read things. So you can definitely practice that a little bit here. But there's some really interesting stuff to take, but a little bit of fluff as well. I might give it a 3 star these days. Okay, next up we have another reread. It is 1984. Like I mentioned, I read this in high school, and rereading it now, I actually have my review on Goodreads. I'll read it right now. So I gave it 4 stars. And I was a little bit negative in my review, but this is such an amazing book. There's some passages in this book that I'm just mind blown by the writing and the thought, like double think, and how someone can go so deep into how people think and consciousness, essentially. It's really, really fascinating. And I remember reading a passage in here, and I just had to stop reading, and I just kept reading it over and over again. It was just so, like, the best passage in any book I've read before. There is little parts where it gets a little bit slow, but at the same time, the plot does move forward, and it does tie into each other. So, it's a classic for a reason. That book, you have to read it if you have not read it yet. You have to. And I'll read my review on Goodreads real quick. I said on my second read through this book, it's a lot more boring than I remember. I guess because I just absolutely loved it the first time. After having all the initial nuances of the world explained, there isn't much else exciting. Aside from some thought-provoking writing at times, I remember there being a lot more done in terms of plot with the thought police and thought crime. So yeah, on the second read-through, I guess it was a little bit slower, but if you haven't read it, it's absolutely phenomenal. Overall, this book is still an undisputed classic that is still very enjoyable at times and has some amazing, thought-provoking writing. Although there is a lot of meandering and it feels more part of a series than a whole encompassing story, after reading the afterword, it really helped me to understand exactly what Orwell is warning society about, and that is showing where we are headed for unless we succeed in our renaissance of the spirit of humanism and dignity. Obviously, I got that little passage from the book. Also, how it teaches us the danger with which all men are confronted today, the danger of a society of automatons. People have lost every trace of individuality, of love, of critical thought, and yet he will not be aware of it because of doublethink. Yeah, I got that straight from the book. That's beautiful. I mean, yeah. Oh, what a great fucking book. Okay. This goes with Brave New World. Brave New World Revisited. It's a lot thinner than Brave New World. And yeah, I could barely get through Brave New World. So, I mean, they look good next to each other. So I really wanted to read this. But it's just too boring for me. I can't do it. But look at that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you can see the difference right here. So yeah. And last but not least, well, second to last, Billy Summers. I actually have a review of this on my channel. It's one of my first videos, if you want to check it out. I still stand by most of what I said in that video. But this book is about an assassin, and he is trying to assassinate a mob boss, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it's really fascinating, really interesting synopsis. I love the beginning. The beginning is so good, actually, looking back. Really like the beginning, and he's talking about how he's gonna assassinate this guy. It's like some politician, and, you know, he's got his gun, and he's looking through the window, and he's got the specific times that he's doing stuff, the politician. Very, very interesting and exciting. And it goes through, like, how he's, like, lying to his neighbors because, you know, he can't let them know that he's an assassin, and how he, like, hides all that kind of stuff. I really thought the beginning was really good. And so once he finally does get past that, I won't spoil too much, but once that plot line, the first like 200 pages of what I just described, kind of concludes a little bit, it gets into a middle part, and he meets a woman. To be honest, I did not love that part, and I felt like we got pretty sidetracked from the beginning. It felt almost like two different books with the beginning and the middle. And I felt like we were kind of losing track. So the beginning definitely dragged for me personally. Dragged. I could see if you really like the girl character, you know, maybe you'd like it. But some of the things Billy Summers does just feels nonsensical. You know, like at the beginning, we're introduced to him. He's a very analytical guy. He does everything by the book. You know, he's not leaving anything up for, you know, discretion or anything. And then he meets this lady, and all that goes out the window. You know, the police are searching for him, and he's just like, let me go to the store and grab something for this girl because she's in pain. And, like, I understand, but you're an assassin, bro. Like, it feels like he just completely changed his character, and I really, really hate it. You know, I would love to see, like, kind of a ruthless main character. You know, I'd be okay with not thinking the main character is great. I read American Psycho. You know, I want something more gritty a little bit, but it seems like lately with Stephen King, he tends to reel back some of the intense stuff. And I don't know if that's maybe the publisher. You know, I've seen an interview with Stephen King, and he was talking about how publishers tend to get their hands on it, and, you know, it's his work, he's really proud of it, and then he gives it to the publishers, and they want to change all these different things. And it really made me think, like, what would have been some of the books that he made, you know, how much darker were they? And then the publisher comes in like, this is too much, we got to change it. So, you know, maybe it's something with the publisher. If so, that would be really sad and disappointing. I wish more people talked about publishers and how they kind of censor a lot of books before they're ever released. You know, everything goes through a publisher, so I can only imagine some of the crazy shit that we would see, pardon my language, with Stephen King if he didn't have any, censors. So yeah, maybe he's just getting more used to that, so he reels it in. But yeah, either way, I wish the main character was a little more ruthless, and I didn't love how he kind of threw everything out the window for this one random person. It felt not realistic. Then we kind of get past that, and then we kind of get back on track with the assassination. That I really loved, so I liked the ending a lot. And I remember there being or The Shining. There's a Shining reference in here. That was sick. I love that. I wish there was more references like that. And the ending was good. So beginning and ending I loved. Middle part got a little bit slow. And then lastly, I don't have that with me, but the last book I read was Dune Messiah. That is the second Dune book in the Dune series. And I loved it. I absolutely loved this book. I've read Dune, the original, and although I did love that book, this one is shorter and it gets more to the point, and there's so many page-turning moments with the political decisions that people are making. Everyone's making their moves. It's like a chess game almost with politics. And to see Paul Atreides and how he's being a ruler now, and Lady Jessica, and the princess and Chani, and there's just so much intricate interpersonal relationships and things happening. And I just love this book so much. It's only 220 pages, so you just fly right through it. And let's see, I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I kind of want to change that. I think it's more of a 5-star for me. I did like it more than the first one. I did. I wrote a short little review. I said, great characters, great world building, beautiful, thought-provoking writing, plus some big surprises, although much smaller scale compared to the first book. And what a cliffhanger ending. And yes, the ending was insane. Yeah, an amazing book, honestly. It's super underrated. It only has like 3.8 stars on Goodreads. Yeah, super underrated. Better than the first, in my opinion. So yeah, that is all the books I read for 2022, because I didn't read hardly any books the last 2 years, but I am getting back into it. I'm reading like 5 books right now. I'm super excited to get back into it. I've always been a reader my whole life. Just with work and stuff, I kind of fell out of it. Alright, y'all, I want to thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you got to this point, I love you. And, let me know what books y'all have read in the past, what books y'all are looking forward to reading, what y'all may have thought of these books that I've read. Any kind of book talk, I'd love to discuss it down below. So yeah, thanks for watching, and if you could like and subscribe, that would be sick. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, have a good day.